Okay, I see Susan, so I'm going to make her host.
She's a co-host just in case.
Oh, co-host? Who do you want to be host?
Oh, Eugene.
Oh, Eugene. Okay.
Because
Okay.
he's actually managing.
Okay.
I'm seeing Zachary on the screen, but not on the listing.
I'm here, Chanel.
I hear you and I see you taking over, but oh, there's your face. That's odd. Maybe we're only going to have your face all night, nothing else.
I see my name.
Okay, everybody set. Have a great meeting tonight. Have a good night.
Thank you very much, Eva. You have a good night too.
Thank you.
Eva.
Bye.
Zachary, are you doing something that makes you be the picture even when others talk?
I shouldn't be.
Eugene, are you doing something?
The only way I haven't pinned myself, so
Okay, I'm talking now, but I'm not on the screen as the one that's talking.
Yes, you are.
Yes.
yeah, for us
You are. It's all fine. It's all
Why don't
fine.
I see me then?
I don't know, but you are. Whoever is speaking is,
Oh,
it's all
good.
good.
Okay. I won't
Yeah,
worry.
and I'll set it to gallery view for everyone else.
I'm going to sign off and back on because I've done many things to try to make it work. I'll be back.
No, I don't have.
Okay, Eugene, answer me so I can see if I can see you.
Okay.
Oh,
Can you see
good.
me?
Good. I feel better. I was worried about not seeing the presentation. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We'll wait one moment.
We've got 8, including you, Chanel.
Bring the first person up, which is number 2 on the list. Sorry, Susan, what did you say?
We've got 8 committee members, including you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we have a
Okay.
quorum.
We can begin now. This is the Community Board of Manhattan Landmarks meeting, the first of meetings for February of this year. And first off, if anyone is here from the public for 350 Bleecker Street, that has been postponed until next month, presumably. So they won't be heard tonight. Everything else on the list is in. Just a reminder, we seem to have a number of new presenters and a number of public members. The order is that the presentations are done by the applicant. And then questions and comments from the committee, from board members who are present, guests, and finally the public. And the public, please limit yourself to 2 minutes. And if you're simply repeating what someone else said, just say so and we'll take note of that. For the applicants, it's important that if you make large changes that are not things that we've recommended in our resolution, that you come back and present those so that what we see tonight is reasonably what will be seen by the commission with those modifications. For everyone, the hearings are for landmark issues only, and if there are other issues concerning an application, please apply to the community board office and they'll direct you to the right place. For the Zoom rules, the chat should be used only for things like not being able to be heard or not having your hand raised and you're not being called on, and not for any comments or questions, because as a public meeting, that's not officially part of the record, and at a proper meeting, what would be said out loud is. We appreciate everyone being brief, presenters, public, and even board members. In the business session following it's closed but open to be visited by staying on. And at the beginning of it, we ask any board members who are here for their final comments. And then finally, it will be just for the committee to formulate the resolutions. I mentioned that 350 Bleecker Street is laid over. The first application, number 2 on everyone's list, 841 Broadway, the application is to remove an existing glass panel infill and install an ATM machine and to add lighting to an existing canopy. So when the presenter's ready, please do and share your screen.
I am promoting Bill Rosenblum. Bill, if there's anyone else that is presenting with you, if you could please raise your hand.
I'm sorry, there's one more thing. I didn't apply to this one so much. I noticed a number of the presentations have a lot of information on one page so that it gets quite small. So if, as you're calling our attention to something, particularly a picture, just zoom in on exactly what we're supposed to see so that we can be more clear about what you're saying. Thank you. When you're ready. Mr. Rosenblum?
I believe you're muted. Mr. Rosenblum, you're muted.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Hi. Oh, sorry about that. And then I'm going to share my screen. Okay, can you see my screen now?
We do.
Oh, good.
Yes, we can.
So this is for Santander Bank, which is in a landmark building at 841 Broadway, Union Square. It's 13th and Broadway. Here's the site here. And this is the building in relation to Union Square. It's just a block away. This is an existing plan of the bank. It currently has a full service bank with a 24-hour ATM lobby. It was designed that way. And then full banking service during regular banking hours. This is, if you can see this, this is an image from street view of the existing bank, which was fitted out prior to the landmark status of this building. And the proposed area that we would like to affect is the bank has a need to add a through storefront ATM because they'd like to close the 24-hour lobby. I believe they've already closed the 24-hour lobby because they've had a significant problem with homelessness and some threats to people's lives in the ATM vestibule. So they have closed it, and and also to service their their clientele, they're proposing to put an ATM through the storefront, and that will involve removing one panel of an existing storefront. And inside it would mean an ATM service room that would be built partial height within the ATM lobby here now, current lobby. And here's the, sorry, I have to a little bit of trouble zooming. If you can see my hand here, this is the existing panel, and the service machine would be fitted through the storefront. And a security camera would be added and some internal light to the canopy, additional light for security. And here's the elevation. It would be this furthest panel in the ATM lobby. It's approximately 5 feet wide by 8 feet high. And then the proposed would look like this, a through the wall machine and an ATM surround, which would have an illuminated logo, acrylic logo. This is a shop drawing by a sign company, but it's essentially the same thing. It's the panel within the existing framing. The existing storefront framing will remain. And in the future, we recognize this is a landmark building and has a proposed facade guideline. Either the bank, if they choose to spend the money while they're there, or when they move out, this all can be taken away. Are there any questions or anything that I can further elaborate on?
I have none, if that's all you wish to say. Members of the committee. Eugene, if you could just go along with whoever's raised the hand.
Yes, Brian?
Yes, thank you, Bill. Did I miss it? Are you the architect for this project?
I am.
Have you been involved with the previous submittals to our board for these facade changes to this building?
I have not. When this initial project was done in 2016 and was finished in 2017, it was not a landmark building. It only became landmark after 2009 or 2019.
Okay, so the last time the landlord was before our committee, they promised that the corner this masonry would be restored to the original condition. And I'm wondering if that's not still in the plan. Or why
the landlord hasn't brought that to my attention. I was only brought to this attention once we discovered it was landmark status now, and I did see the plans that Landmark sent to me for the facade, which did involve the landlord, but he has not notified the client. He is a tenant of that Santander Bank, so Santander was unaware that they would be involved in any way, or the landlord was doing such work. The only recent thing was that there was some scaffolding on the building for repairs. We recognize the adjacent tenant has a new facade, but I think that was done when the previous tenant moved out.
Okay, that's not really part of this application in any case.
Yeah, right.
Are there
So
other,
no, I wasn't aware. Sorry.
Eugene, whoever else wishes to speak?
Yes, Brendan?
Yes, thanks, Bill.
Sure.
It doesn't look like is there some historic material being removed?
No, the only thing that's being removed is the glass that's existing there now, which isn't historic. And in order to make the machine itself ADA compliant, we are taking out 3.5 inches of concrete in the floor to lower the ATM machine to a height that's ADA compliant at the sidewalk level. And when the bank vacates a space or in future renovations, it certainly can be filled back in.
And above your signage marquee, what material is that? This doesn't affect that, is that correct?
No, it's literally this one panel. I mean, the rest is all existing. We're leaving it. So the framing of the storefront will even remain. This is a panel that will be slipped into that framing. It's an opaque panel.
Yeah. Great, thank you.
Sure.
Are there other questions? Are members of the board here who wish to speak? Anyone from the public?
I don't see any hands raised from the public.
Okay, I have one question. It looks, may I say, aggressive to have this red continuing solidly down. I wonder if some consideration could be made to having a red border or a white border with the red around the machine and the logo. It's clunky, I think, is what I'm trying to say.
You think it's too much like a bull? It's too. I see what you're talking about. It's too much red. I mean, that's their standard color, but they have modified it in the past. I mean, it could be a gray, it could be a white. This is their standard.
Right, I understand
color.
that some red is needed to sort of carry out the thing and would be attractive, but if it simply had a gray or something border around it,
I see.
wouldn't be quite so, particularly in contrast to the window beside it.
Right, the facade it's currently anodized aluminum, clear anodized aluminum, but the canopy is red. Right.
I just suggest that as something that might be considered.
Sure.
Okay, are all questions and considerations disposed of? Thank you very much. Eugene, if you'll switch over. 1:30.
Thank you for your time.
Sorry, I think Albert's got his hand raised.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry, Albert.
I almost missed it. A question about the panels above the, that's an awning, right?
It's an awning.
Santander.
Right.
And
Let me go
above,
back to the street photo.
above,
Above
yeah,
it's a glass a window that has an LED behind it.
there currently is a signage on that space that will no longer be there.
No, it's still there. It's a LED display, and we're not touching it. It's just there now currently, and it's not involved with this
So
ATM.
there is no change in those panels.
No.
But-
No,
Okay.
the only change is the glass in one of the storefront panels will be removed and then replaced with a solid panel, and an ATM machine will be on the sidewalk.
Okay, it
Okay.
just looked different from the present to the proposed.
Well, if in the proposed, it is actually a glass panel. It's just that behind it is an illuminated LED. Maybe I didn't explain it properly here, but that's no change. That's
Okay,
what it is.
thank you.
Okay,
You're welcome.
thank you. Next is 130, 140, 136, 140 Grand Street. The application is to install an awning over a new residential lobby and increase an elevator roof bulkhead. When you're ready.
Okay, I am promoting Daniel Coase. And Chanel, I'm recusing myself from this application.
Okay. You should actually, just for the record, say that when we come to vote. Are you ready, sir?
The Santander presentation is still up.
How do I stop share? Okay, let me stop share. Do I stay on for the entire call or should I sign up?
You may, we'll do the resolution at the beginning of the business session at the end, so you can stay if you'd like.
Okay.
I don't think we'll have any questions for you, certainly.
All right, thank you.
Okay. Yeah, we see Grand Street now, so.
Very good. Good evening. First, I need to say that Eugene Yu is a resident of this building. And so we want to put that on the record, and I believe he will recuse himself from any discussion that would be inappropriate. Anyway, good evening. Tonight we are seeking your approval for a new elevator bulkhead and awning for 134 through 140 Grand Street. This building sits on the northeast corner of Grand and Crosby, and you can see the historic photograph from the 1940s and the way it appears today. The best way to understand this landmark building is to think of it as two buildings combined, even though it sits behind one uniform facade. The reason that becomes important is because this center of the building is an 18-inch thick masonry bearing wall, whereas the rest of, well, let's leave it at that. So there's this 18-inch bearing wall that separates this half of the building from this half of the building. The principal entrance for the joint live work quarter lofts is over here at 138 Grand Street. And this has a lobby and an elevator that has been upgraded to be an automatic elevator. And this has a building stair. This side of the building has a building stair and a service elevator that sits on Crosby Street at the northwest corner of the building. And that is an old manual freight elevator. What happens because of the way the building is divided is that some of the units on this side of the building do not have automatic elevator access, and the elevator, the manual elevator, freight elevator, will be taken out of service as it will no longer meet code and needs to be upgraded. Hence the need for a new elevator. And that, I hope, will set the stage for what the rest of the presentation. Another picture from the tax photos. And this is on Crosby Street looking north, and the elevator bulkhead that we're going to talk about will be up in this northwest corner of the building.
Is this the existing freight elevator shaft and bulkhead that you're using? Or is
It is the existing shaft. We're not changing the perimeter of the shaft. We're only here to discuss the increase in height. So I'll present the elevator first and then the awning. This is on Crosby Street. And again, that elevator is going to be up in this corner. the existing freight elevator will no longer be acceptable to the city. It's an open cage manual elevator. It will be upgraded to an automatic elevator, which will need to comply with all new code and related clearances. So we are talking about an increase in height, but the residents of the building have also been considering a common roof deck for the use of all the residents in the building. In order for this to be built, it must be accessible to all the residents of the building, some of whom may have wheelchairs. We definitely have some ADA issues. So according to the building code, if they build a common roof deck, it does need to have wheelchair access. So this coincides with their need to upgrade the elevator. So we are requesting, or they're considering with all the approvals, to have a stop for the elevator on the roof level. That would make the bulkhead higher. The elevator upgrade gives them this opportunity, sort of a one-time opportunity to do this and provide elevator access to the roof, which is why the bulkhead is proposed at 22 feet tall. It is currently at this front corner 7'6", and with to meet code, it would need to be in about the 10 to 11 foot range.
Which is the increased amount of height? Is that 10 to 11?
It's about 10 feet, and I'll get to that in some technical drawings. So these views are photographs of the site with an artist's illustration of what that bulkhead would look like. The artist's illustration also has a mock-up behind it, and I'm going to explain that as I go through this. But this would be the view from the middle of Crosby Street between Howard and Grand, looking north. This is closer to the corner of Grand. And what we did, because this corner of the building represented quite a safety challenge to create a full mock-up, there's not that great a clearance to the edge on two sides, is that I had an assistant go out and we made a pole that is representing the height of the bulkhead, and you can see the pole sticking up there, and the line work is then to fill out the bulkhead so that you can trust in the illustration based on the what we'll call the mock-up. But basically we have that pole at different points. We've held it at different corners of the existing bulkhead, so it substantiates the illustration. So there's no doubt it would be visible. This will be the new door into the elevator machine room. The current door sits just below that, and I'll have a picture of the existing bulkhead shortly. This is from the corner of Grand and Crosby. This is, you can see if I zoom in, just the very top edge of the elevator bulkhead, existing elevator bulkhead here, and this represents the increase in height. And again, standing on Crosby directly across the street, this will become the residential lobby entrance, as well as this one. And the elevator shaft is exactly that size, exactly that width. The final image would be looking south at the building, and this is where the shaft is most exposed. What we've done in the design of the elevator is to step the shaft in about a foot from this existing wall so that we don't touch the historic fabric of the building. This existing coping stone would remain, and the new elevator shaft would then rise up from this point, but the front edge is in the existing front corner. And this is my assistant here, and we're holding the pole up. I have a clearer photo of that later on, and you can see that the top corner is just above that floor line of the building beyond. that'll become important just for consistency later, but this does accurately represent the bulk. Here's the technical set of drawings for the elevator bulkhead. This dashed line represents the existing bulkhead as it sits now. This is our increase in height. The elevator itself is currently a 12-foot high elevator before you get to the cross beams for hoisting, and there is no roof on the elevator. We are going to make the elevator lower in height to 9 feet, and here's a required 3'6" clearance, and then an 8-foot high required clear space by code for the work area plus the roof thickness. So we've kept it as tight as we can. The desire was to have the largest possible elevator. This is a building for joint live work, and there are artists and residents that have substantial sizes of work that they need to be able to move in and out. But understanding that taking a 12-foot high elevator to the roof on top of the machines would be a lot. So we've kept it as tight as we can. 20'7" is the height of the pole that we created. We stood it on the edge of the roof, and it's up in the air to represent this corner. And you can see that here in this drawing where the line work doesn't overlap the armature of the mock-up. And you can see the pole coming up here, and there's a little bit of red. I have a higher resolution photo of this, and you can see it again here where the pole is up in the air, and then the drawing fills in afterwards. It's a very nice zoom effect. And you can see here how we'll be stepping it back. And you can see in the technical drawings also how we're stepping back from the existing coping stone so that we separate the new from the old, maintain that historic look of the north facade. So what happens then is as the elevator comes down into the lobby, we're going to create a new elevator lobby. Sorry, let me just jump back so that you have an idea of the existing. Sorry, I meant to give you a moment there. This is the existing elevator bulkhead with the mock-up drawn over it.
Is it at all visible now?
This is barely visible. This wall is visible. This is the coping stone that we've seen on the north facade. This height is 7'6", 7'6". So 3 equal increments takes you to 22 feet. Sorry, 7'4" times 3 gets you to 22 feet. So this illustration, this corner is the 20'7" shown in the technical drawing. So that's what it will be like up on the roof. You can see it's currently covered in the same silver paint used on the roof. It's made of brick. It's been covered in roofing over the years. Our proposal is for a gray acrylic stucco. Gray acrylic stucco to somewhat match the color of the building to minimize the impact of this visible bulkhead. Gray acrylic stucco. So these drawings give you the existing conditions on this side of the screen and the proposed conditions on the next side of the screen. We've already sort of looked at this technical drawing. And that 20'7" marker captures this corner next to this existing railing. That's
I think we're fine with the technical drawings unless there's something new to point out.
Okay.
And we can ask if we have a particular question.
Very good. So there are other visible bulkheads on the block and in the area. This is the end of Crosby Street where it meets Howard. There are 3 buildings, one which has a residential pop-up, one which is probably an elevator bulkhead, and the other which is also probably an elevator bulkhead, just based on their size. There are also, this is Crosby and Broom. This building apparently has a new roof deck on it. And if I zoom in, you can see, if I really zoom in, you can see here's the elevator bulkhead visible from the street. And there's the aerial view so that you see it, and its proximity to the edge of the building is probably very similar to ours. So we are not unique. It is visible, but it serves an important function. So we will be creating a new elevator lobby, a new lobby. Right now there's concrete, masonry block infill painted gray in both of these bays. This is currently a door for service, and these 2 doors access the elevator itself. The idea is to join these into one lobby, so it'll be put behind one uniform facade of 2 doors in each bay. But this door will lead into the lobby, whereas this will lead into a service corridor where they keep shovels and brooms and sidewalk maintenance equipment. These will have shades behind them, so you're not looking at brooms and shovels. But it'll look more like a residential window than if we had just frosted it out. This is all clear glass, and we are asking for a canopy over the entrance to the building. Here it is in section. The construction is all aluminum, and it's meant to pick up on the idea of loading dock shed awnings. So the structure will be natural aluminum, unfinished. The glass will be a white laminated safety glass, and there will be cast aluminum fittings to form these connections, giving it an industrial feel. All of the construction of the infill wall will be wood, the doors will be wood, and it will pick up on the detailing that you see here in the adjacent bays. The door panels will have the same configuration, and there will be detailed moldings for these crossbeam headers. The landmark staff has already commented on this. Their comments have been taken and incorporated into these drawings, and they are satisfied at the staff level with this proposal. As I said, the character of the awning will pick up from the idea of loading docks. I'll show you some examples of those that are in the area with their exposed structural elements. There's no doubt that it is a modern intervention, but I think it works well with the facade, and the color scheme will tie it into the facade. The awning does not touch the historic fabric of the building facade. It sits within the cast iron, and it will project about 6 feet over the entrance.
6 feet from the
6 feet, 6 feet out.
6
It's
feet.
6'6", so about 6 feet of projection out over the sidewalk. This is what it will look like as in a rendered view. These are those cast fittings. There will be an aluminum I-beam that runs around the perimeter, and these are aluminum T's with the glass sitting in between each of them. There it is from an under the sidewalk view, but it at least gives you a feeling of standing underneath the awning. That last view on the right. This awning sits across the street at 31 Crosby, and it's an all steel awning. You see the exposed structure underneath. And here are 2 more awnings on Mercer Street, one done with a corrugated tin roof and exposed structural steel, and the other one a more modern interpretation This is 130, the other was 120. Again, aluminum I-beams for structure. These have larger struts going up onto the building. We don't want to do that, so we're doing a bracket from underneath for support. So in conclusion, we don't think that the character of these additions affects the nature of the historic feel of Crosby Street. It will be visible, but there is a need for raising the elevator, and we would like it to go to the roof. It would sit here and it would sit here, but the roof line of Crosby Street has buildings of varied heights, and I think that helps blend in the new element, which will certainly be visible, but we're not talking about a street that has a more uniform look, and therefore I think it will, if approved, not be harmful to the historic nature of the area. I'll take any questions.
Okay, from the committee. Any hands?
Me.
Eugene,
We have Anita.
Yes, I was just wondering if you could show doors on the rest of the building, the ground floor doors to the commercial spaces, or because the adjacent property, the adjacent bay that we do see has a very high windowsill, and I just wanted to know where you got your other design elements.
Sure. So we need a tall door, so we were matching this door height. In this drawing, let me just make that large enough. In this drawing, you can see how we are pulling from, this is a photograph of another bay. To the right of this doorway, there is a rolling door for a garage parking space. And so this is the next window after that.
But you don't have any doors? I understand what
There
you're
are no
saying.
other-
I'm
There are
looking
no
for a
other
door.
doors on this facade. The other
And
door, the only other door is the entrance doors that are on Grand Street.
and are they similar to this?
They are similar.
Are you painting it blue?
No. They will all be painted the same gray that the building is currently.
Oh, it's not blue anymore?
No. I don't know how accurately this color is coming across, but it's a gray.
Oh, it is. Okay. And well, I would just, I would look a little deeper into that if I were you, only because I want to make sure these proportions are correct. To me, it looks like that's a very odd transom above the door in size, and that so I
Okay.
would question that a little bit.
If I can add the comments that I got from Landmarks, this transom here was originally smaller in height to come closer to the proportions of this transom. Landmarks wanted the transom level to be wider, so we picked up this mutton line from the windows, brought that across, and that's what creates this.
No, I understand that, but it
Okay.
looks, standing back without knowing anything, the proportions seem odd to me. And I don't know if they're that typical in the area. So I would encourage you to just be confident on that before you build it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Other people wish to speak?
Albert,
Yes. Under the canopy, is there any lighting?
There will be an LED strip run around the inside of the I-beam. You won't see the light itself. It will just provide a glow to the glass canopy above so that there's some illumination by the entrance.
And there is no signage anywhere except a very modest address on the entrance.
Correct.
And are those letters, numbers, are they painted or?
No, there'll be a raised letter that is affixed.
Metal? Okay.
Brendan, your hand up.
Yeah, Brian, why don't you go first?
All right, I'm following up on Anita's comments, and I noticed that on your second sheet, you do have the exterior long shot of the building, and it does seem like it shows the transoms and the doors on the Grand Street side that seems to have some similarity to what you're proposing. Would that be accurate to say then?
The difference with the Grand Street side is that there is about an 18-inch high loading dock. And so it does skew the height. So here's the Grand Street facade, and you can see how many steps there are up. So that these doors and this transom are lower in height than when we come off of the sidewalk level over here.
So would it be accurate to say that the transom with the number 134 on it might be the same height that you have for the upper transom?
It's smaller.
That's smaller on Grand Street.
We're picking up this mutton line here to make this facade read as uniform instead of this mutton line here.
Okay, got it.
And you can see that step here between.
That's why it looks odd.
Yeah.
That's exactly what my eye's picking up,
Yeah.
because the proportion of the top.
Have we
transom.
exhausted this question now? It seems like we're repeating. Can we move on to
That's fine with me, yeah.
Are there other people who wish to speak?
Yeah, I'd like to, Chanel. Just pick up on Brian's comment and Anita's comment. If you look at 138 address, it doesn't have steps. Is that correct?
No, it has a metal ramp, but it comes up to the same height.
Okay.
Unfortunately, this van is blocking it, but I guarantee you there is metal ramp. This floor level is the same across, and it's the same across here. The entrance that is here that does provide access to this floor is a ramp up to floor level.
Okay, I got it. Thank you. So I have a couple of other questions. The purpose of the elevator, can you explain that again, please?
So there is no automatic elevator access to this third floor rear apartment. There is a bearing wall that runs down the middle of the building, and the only connection from the automatic elevator on this side of the building to this side of the building is at the 5th floor.
So someone who lives in that 3rd floor cannot take an elevator. They have to walk.
Correct.
Okay.
And the 4th floor resident has to use the service elevator if they want elevator access, or they have to go up to 5 and walk down a floor. The 2nd floor is a full floor loft, so it is not aggrieved.
Okay. So currently, do artists use that elevator to move
Yes.
them? Okay.
Yes.
So one thing I'd like to make sure to point out is that that lobby is prepared to assume that carts, dollies are running across it, and it's not like super marble, and that is this a condo building?
It's a co-op.
A co-op, okay. Just that the bylaws, nuisance bylaws can't be changed. So that means that it'll always be accept creative use in those, for the whole building.
Correct. It's joint live work quarters for artists.
Mhm.
This is the lobby. These are steel panels with a bolt pattern on the wall. It is used actively as a loading dock all day by the ground floor tenant.
Great.
The interior of the elevator will pick up on that same theme.
Okay. Great. Now for the roof deck, is that going to be divided? There's no penthouses or anything. That's going to be open for everybody?
There are 2 rooftop units on the 6th floor that do have access to the roof. And I wasn't sure if this would become an issue or not, but here's the roof plan. And so the elevator will come up here
Mhm.
and let out to a common roof deck. The exact size of that has not been determined yet, but it will be in this area. It may become a little bit bigger. It's something that the co-op needs to resolve.
But none of this affects what you presented tonight.
It does not.
Okay, are there other questions?
I still have a question.
Okay.
Yeah, just getting back to, I do appreciate your loading dock design. I think it's very minimal. But I just want to point out, again, I've pointed this out before, that it's ahistorical to the neighborhood. This was an awning neighborhood. These were high-end stores, you know, those, a fabric awning. And the examples we have from Mercer Street, the Aldo Rossi building, and the building next to it, those are new interventions, or yeah. So it's just pointing that out. But I do like your design. It's way more minimal than the other ones. It doesn't draw attention to itself. Yeah, so if you look at the Aldo Rossi building,
Right.
you know, he got away with it because he's Aldo Rossi. But this, the one next to it is a new intervention, and there would not have been, I haven't seen any evidence that there's that type of shed awning. But, you know, I would be fine if I was proven wrong at some point, if there was some documentation of that. I just wanted to point that out, but I do think you did a modest job. Thank you.
Okay, are there other questions? Are there any board members here? If so, speak up. If not, are there members of the public who wish to speak?
We have one question from the public, Pete Davies.
There we go. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. First, I just want to say thank you to the co-op members of this building for going through the process. I live in a building, a rental building up the street on Crosby, where the owner put in a illegal big thing on the roof to accommodate a new freight elevator that's much more visible than this one, and it got approved after the fact. I understand the difficulty of upgrading a freight elevator from the manual to something that people can actually use. And in the case of this building, which is occupied and used by artists, some very well-known artists who do very large work, the need for accommodating that is, I think, should be taken into consideration. So this is Crosby Street has, as they pointed out, it has a number of these additions up top. It's not like Greene Street where you see a vista of pristine roof lines. So anyway, I just am thinking they have solved this problem as best as can be asked for. And I think maybe with some considerations, this should be supported by the committee. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there other members of the public, Eugene?
I have one more.
I do not see any others.
Okay,
In terms of use for GLWQ, the elevator, you know, a lot of times people who make big work will ride it down on top of the elevator. You know, they'll hire elevator mechanics. Just, you know, that's something to take into consideration when the new elevator is put in.
okay, thank you. We'll move on now. If you'll upgrade the person from Greene Street, please, Eugene. 60 Greene Street. The application is to replace existing ground floor infill, paint the ground floor to match existing, repair and paint existing handrail and entrance steps. Is this an accurate description that I've read? That was considerably condensed from what was submitted.
Yes, thank you. I'm actually looking for the applicant. First, thank you, Daniel. I'll be.
Pete, would you take your
Thank
hand
you
off?
all. Good night.
60 Greene Street. I have on my sheet Rosanna Ochoa. Okay, I think I see Hong Wei Bao. Let me promote them to see if they are the presenter for 60 Greene Street. So Hong Wei,
Can you hear, you can hear us now, right?
oh, we can hear
Yes.
you. Yes.
Okay, can you see us?
We see the screen share, yes, the
Do
beginning.
the screen share.
Do you just want to start the video?
But we don't see you. It looks like your cameras are turned off.
Uh-oh.
Screen share is fine if you could just begin.
Okay. I am Michael Newman. I'm here with Bao. We are from Newman and Rudy Architecture, and we're here to represent our clients, Watches of Switzerland. They have a store at 60 Greene Street, which is on the east side of the street between Broome and Spring. They occupy the ground floor and the basement level, and we are proposing replacing the infill of the 4 bays of their storefront. If you look at our presentation here, bay 1, 3, and 3 are fixed infill. Bay 2 had been in the past an entrance, which is no longer. Bay 4 is the present entrance to the store, and Bay 5 is the entrance to the residence above. What we are proposing is indicated in the yellow. We would like to replace the existing double paned infill with a single pane for the display windows for the store. There is presently in Bay 1 and 3 an existing cast iron plinth. And in our early review with the landmarks, they suggested that we propose a new cast iron to go into Bay 2 to match the existing. All 3 of those display windows would be matching exactly the profiles of the bulkheads and profiles of the window framing. We are also proposing replacing the existing entry doors with like entry doors. We are simply doing them to make them more secure and put new hardware on them.
Would you please repeat that, sir?
We're proposing replacing the existing entry doors with exactly the same doors
Okay.
in profile and thickness. We simply need to upgrade them. They're not in great shape. and we would replace the existing hardware. All 4 of those bays would have laminated low iron security glass, because this is it is a high-end watch retail store. The existing transoms would all remain intact. The existing railings and step-up platform would remain intact. Let's see, you want to go to the next. So this is again showing the existing bay 2. That is the one that we would replace to the single pane, getting rid of the center astragal, and replacing the bulkhead with a cast iron bulkhead on the right. These are just details showing the existing profiles on the entry doors, and that the proposed doors would match exactly. This is showing the the 3 display window bays and how we would again match all the profiles.
We don't really require these technical details unless
Okay.
somebody has a problem. So if you could just go on to the more.
All right, and so this is
I'd
just
like to hear the technical details, please.
okay. So this is just showing the profile of the existing cast iron and how we would be replacing it. I believe that's. I don't know if you're interested. We could be doing it in cast iron where we found a source for it, or this could be replicated in wood. But all of the infill is, aside from those bulkheads, wood, painted wood. And the color of the exterior would be exactly the same. We would not make a change.
Do the railings all match? I'm just looking at the drawing.
Yeah, the railings are existing, so that does not change.
Oh, I was like, okay.
So if there are any questions.
Okay, Eugene, go forward.
Yes, Brian?
Okay, several questions. Thank you for this. And I get the cast iron replication for the bulkheads. Are the original doors, are those wood?
Yes, they are.
Okay, but you're going to be replacing them with more secure doors of what material?
All same wood.
Okay, very good. And I must say that once you eliminate the doorways or even the what looks like bays with doors, there doesn't seem to be any reason to maintain railings that would bring people up the steps and to the blank wall or to the plate glass wall.
Yes, that's correct.
And there's no way, once you're up on that step in front of that window, there's no way to move down to the door without going back out on the sidewalk. Is that correct?
That is correct.
All right, so
You
I
know,
would think we only have railings where there's an entrance.
mhm.
This is my opinion, so thank you.
In bay 1 on the left, and well, let's just say between bay 3 and bay 4, you can walk from one bay to the next. It is conceivable, and so we would need to maintain those railings on both sides to the entrance. It is conceivable to remove the railing between bay 2 and bay 3.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Brendan?
Questions?
Thank you. I think I have a different drawing that I got from the website than what what you're presenting now. Was this publicly available, what I'm looking at?
Yeah, this is a presentation that was just showing it in an enlarged presentation versus what we submitted to you, but it is identical. I don't see any difference.
I just didn't see that everything was being replaced. I just saw that the existing store entrance stores were being replaced.
But what you're presenting now is what is the fact, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
And we're showing now, this is what was submitted. And we were indicating that these were all being replaced.
So these were submitted to CB2 and they just didn't get uploaded to the website. Is that correct? Hello?
Are there other questions?
Yeah, I still have a few more questions. So now when you say you're replacing the windows, are you replacing so what I have is your door, your entrance door, and that's totally cool because that's not historical door. I do appreciate the cast iron, replication. I don't know how necessary it is. But are you replacing all of the window frames, that historic material as well?
Yes.
Not all historical material, but many of them are.
Yes, the bays 1, 2, and 3 are replacing all of the lower infill. The upper transoms would remain.
Yeah, so that material is in good shape. So I'm just wondering why you're doing that.
Because it is a retail store, it is really almost impossible to display properly within those windows.
So that's a reason why to get rid of them?
Yes.
Okay. I see that differently, but that's my opinion. I think that's all I have, except for that there's rust on the bases of the columns, and if that can be addressed with a appropriate primer when it's painted, that would be great. And there are some cracks in the column bases that I would suggest that you just talk to Landmarks about what the appropriate sealant would be with those, please. All done.
Great, thank you. Albert?
Yes, my question is about ADA access. There doesn't appear to be any. I'm not sure about day 5.
Yeah, why don't you go to the full elevation? If you see all the way to the right, there is an ADA access elevator that brings you up to that level.
I see. Okay, yeah, and that is in the that's the residential entrance also.
The residential entrance, and in that lobby, there is a door that gives you access right into the store.
And it is ground level entrance.
Yeah, you can actually see a little bit of it in the plan just below that elevation. Let's see. Go down to the plan. So you can see here, there's the.
Oh, it says ADA entry, yes.
Yeah, and then you can see in the condominium lobby, just to the left, you can see the beginning of a swing door, and that leads you into the store.
Oh, yeah. Okay, thank you.
I guess I'm
Thank
next.
you. Anita, you're next.
Albert, I was gonna talk about the same thing. And now it occurs to me, how do you get from the ground level to a couple of steps up once you go in there? Is there a ramp?
We don't have a ramp on the store facade. And so we had been approved by the building department using the ADA elevator as the access into the store.
But it's on the wrong side of
There's a note, a plaque on the entry door indicating that you can get access. via
okay.
the
All right,
ADA.
thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Mhm.
Other questions?
Yeah, I have one more question, sorry. On the drawings that I'm looking at, it said you were gonna do some refurbishing or repair of the handrails and the stoop. Is that still in the works?
They have actually been done. The all of the diamond plate has been upgraded, and all of the handrails have as well.
Okay, that was just confusing to me because I didn't see that there was an issue.
So are they not part of this application then?
No,
Okay, it was just an old drawing.
But painting the, you mentioned the rails extensively. It has nothing to do with the rails part of the application.
no, because the railings are there, they are existing.
Okay, that's fine.
Thank you.
Eugene, more?
I don't see any other hands raised from the committee. And going to the public, I don't see any hands raised. Oh, wait, I do see one. Pete Davies.
Yeah, I'm just looking for some clarification here. On the presentation materials that CB2 posted, sheet number A-206. The bottom panels under what are being submitted, proposed as show windows.
Mhm.
Two of those are existing cast iron bottom panels and bay 2 is wood.
That is correct.
And what would bay 2? Bay 2 would remain as wood. The others would be cast iron. What would be
The landmarks committee suggested that we propose putting a cast iron bulkhead in that location to match bay 1 and 3.
So that would any seam between the two moldings would disappear essentially, and those
Yes.
three would be cast iron, same material, same configuration.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, I have a question. If you could go to that, pictures of the windows that you were flipping between the existing and proposed at the very beginning of the presentation. Okay, if you go back to there. This is presumably the original configuration of the windows.
Yes.
Certainly it is of the middle one. So and what exists now may have been replaced in kind, but it's the existing pattern.
Yes.
My comment is that there is a very deliberate repeated pattern through the whole, and it's completely disturbed by changing these to single windows. And it's highly dubious that you couldn't show watches, small as they are, in this configuration of windows. So we'll discuss that in the executive session. The business meeting, excuse me.
Right.
Thank
I
We'll
think
move on now to the next application.
right. I think that what we're trying to do is trying to make it a retail environment, but still being sensitive to what is the existing condition. I know that it's a difficult balancing act, particularly given how the street, as the street has become so retail oriented, all the windows do become more open.
Well, our concern here, by the very name, is preservation of the historic character. And my point was that this does not preserve it.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Understood.
Eugene, you'll work on the next people for Broadway. I'll read this.
Yes,
Remove 473 Broadway, remove the existing greenhouse structure on the east side of the existing penthouse and add a roofed enclosure on the west side, alter existing portion of the penthouse, raise the exhaust fan structures with new exhaust fans, and replace existing air conditioning equipment. I looked at carefully at this presentation. It's not quite as complicated for us as it would seem.
great. So I have, so two things actually. First, Pete Davies, your hand is still raised. I want to make sure that you didn't have a question for the last applicant.
Pete, take your
And
hand down.
Okay, and then second, I'm trying to promote Bill Rosenblum. Mr. Rosenblum, if you will please rejoin the meeting as a panelist. That will allow you to share your presentation.
Is this the same presenter we had earlier?
Hi.
Yes.
Hi.
No, I'm sorry. I have the wrong, sorry, that was my mistake. Kenneth Bainton. So let me, that
I
is my mistake.
apologize for not making the
I
two.
apologize.
Jason.
Thank you, Mr. Rosenblum.
No problem.
Okay.
Hi.
All right.
Mr. Bainton.
Good evening.
Good evening. There's another Kay Bainton also in the joined. Is that an associate of
Yeah.
yours?
Yeah, redundancy on my part, but it makes it easier to see what's going on as I'm presenting. So here we go. So I'm just sharing the one, or are you going to promote both?
I can promote both, but whichever one is more convenient for you to present from.
But it's all right to promote one. So 473 Broadway.
So this is
Yeah, so
one that
the
I
first
noticed. This is one that I noticed has a lot of information on one page. So if you would just zoom and call our attention, it'll be very helpful to be able to see
Sure.
more.
Okay, good. So 473 Broadway is the left of these, twin buildings. This is a condominium building. I guess 8 floors. It's 473 is one condominium building, goes all the way through to Mercer, and 475 to the right is the same thing, but they share a party wall. So it's just north of Grand Street, just north of the this large building on the corner of Grand Street and Broadway. Again, this is the red indicates the area of the penthouse that we're talking about. And the area to the west, so up page, this area is a separate two separate apartments and not part of this discussion. So we have a view from Broome Street, and you know, the second building is 473. This is a view from Mercer Street. So that's the side of 473, and this little gray thing in the middle is the elevator bulkhead for 473. And just up page here, you see just a little corner of the stair bulkhead for 473. Again, all of those are existing. And then view from the corner of Grand and Broadway, you see the existing elevator bulkhead, and you see the corner of the stair bulkhead, and then two little gravity ventilators that are existing to remain. So what this diagram is trying to show is that this rooftop is very visible from all the way from Canal Street to east of Broadway along Grand Street. But you see different parts of it. So the area from along Grand Street east of Broadway, so this number 2 is where you see most of the south face of you know, the bulkhead, etc. And then from Canal Street, you can only see the you get a very different view. You can only see to the east of that elevator bulkhead that I showed you. So this is the view directly across the street. And then to the right is the view of the existing bulkhead, elevator bulkhead, and a little piece of the existing greenhouse. This is, you know, close to Canal Street, between Howard and Canal. Now, when we were doing our mock-up, they were doing work on the facade. And so there's a lot of unrelated scaffolding and things that are getting in the way of our mock-up. In addition, they were doing major service work on the elevator, replacing equipment and such. So the elevator was actually out of commission for a period of 6 months. So the way we had to get up here is we had to take an elevator on the Mercer Street side, cross over a floor that was under construction on the 7th floor, and then go up the stairs to access the apartment. So this is relevant to the question of how much mock-up were we able to do in one shot. And I know that was a question raised by the chair, and so that's why I'm going into this at length. So this is just a section through Mercer on the left, Broadway on the right, and from directly across the street. All of the views that say that where you can see the elevator bulkhead, which is the most visible existing, you know, piece of this, all of those views are diagonal views. Okay, so you see the plan in the upper left. There's 475, which is not in scope, 473, which is in scope, and this is the existing. There's a roof, and then there's a greenhouse attachment on the east side. Then there's some views on the bottom left. There's a view of, the existing penthouse structure. There's a view of the stair bulkhead exit. There's a view of the elevator bulkhead behind it. And then there's these toilet and kitchen exhaust fans from apartments below that currently discharge out on the roof level. And so then on the east side, there's a greenhouse structure, which is, single glaze and leaky. And then the elevator bulkhead, which you see to the left, which is not impacted by this. And we are proposing to remove this greenhouse structure and essentially replace it with a permanent structure that has a roof and windows and a shading device, which we will illustrate. So this is just a view from Grand Street east of Broadway, looking up and zooming in. You see the existing elevator bulkhead. You see the triangle of the existing stair bulkhead. And then behind that, you see a proposed enclosure for these exhaust fans, which are proposed to be raised. And then behind that, you see the edge of the shading device that we're proposing for the edge of the penthouse, the perimeter of the penthouse, sorry. And so we have, three-dimensional views. So this is the existing condition diagrammatically, stair bulkhead, elevator bulkhead, greenhouse, and solid structure, if you will. And then this is the proposed modification. And so the existing roof, the 3/4 of the roof that's on the west side remains, effectively untouched. And then we're adding a new roof on the east side to match the west side roof. And then we're proposing to put a shading device that goes around 3 sides of the existing penthouse enclosure. We're not enlarging the penthouse in any way. We're just adding the shading device. And then right here, you see how we're proposing to reconfigure the exhaust fans and enclose them in a new enclosure. And we're replacing the fans so that they will discharge vertically. So this is just where there's a roof plan. You see the shading device, which is does not exceed 30 inches, which is a permitted obstruction from the point of view of the zoning regulation. Number 2, you see here, this is the new roof. And then the proposed floor plan. The stair is existing, the elevator bulkhead, the stair bulkhead, and then the enclosure that's proposed for the reconfiguration of these exhaust fans. So this is just a straight elevation facing a view looking north to the south elevation, and you see the profile of the existing and the profile of the new. We are proposing this screen wall in the back. There's a cooling tower behind that, which is not visible, but is not actually part of this property. It's on the adjacent building. Okay, so these are just partial elevations on the top existing, on the bottom proposed. actually sections through the middle of the penthouse. And then this is a section going east-west, looking north through the middle of the penthouse. And the top is existing, the bottom is new. So you see that, basically the shape of the existing volume remains the same. And, what's being added is this little shading device around the edge, which we can get into further. This is specifically regarding the various photographs that were taken of the mock-up. So rather than do one mock-up of the entire thing, which admittedly would have been preferable, because we had to negotiate the elevator problems and the scaffolding, et cetera, we did one section and we moved it to these various locations. So we have 5 locations here. We have the South 1, South 2, South 3, South 4, and E1. And so, and then we have a separate one where we mocked up the exhaust enclosure. And then this one is the mock-up in and among the scaffolding. So this red smudge here is the shading device on the east side, mocked up. This is the shading device along the south side. It's the westernly most, number 1. This is in position number 2. This is in position number 3. And this is in position number 4. So I just wanted to, you to see that, the whole thing was mocked up, but you have to sort of see it like a movie.
The shading one that you just
frames.
The shading one you just did is one continuous line, and you were just showing it in sections. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay.
And so when you look at this image, this is a view from the roof, with the mock-up, and then a rendered 3D view, the mock-up of the exhaust enclosure, and the 3D view of that, and likewise mock-up on the east side, and the 3D view of that. And these are some additional 3D view versus continuous shading device, which obviously has important energy ramifications. In this, we superimposed artist rendering, it was called earlier, of the enclosure size and the shading device as it relates to the existing construction. And let's see, this is focusing, again, what we did is we took the mock-up and then we drew on top of the mock-up, so to extend it. So this is just the portion that is visible from this yellowed area. So we're talking about really the corner, the northwest corner of Grand Street, and I'm sorry, from the southeast corner of Grand Street and Broadway, looking up at the penthouse. This yellow area are what can be seen here. So this is the view with the mock-up, and here is the composite superimposed view. And then here is part of the view with the mock-up and the composite superimposed view. Then now this is the part that's visible along Broadway. ending at Canal Street. So here's the view from the south side of Canal Street. And you know, this is where that shading device would be. There's the elevator bulkhead. You know, certainly from this point, it doesn't break the horizon of the building behind it, but you know, closer to between Howard and about halfway to Grand, then this little smudge is the visible area, and that piece of scaffolding roughly represents the edge of it, but that's not our piece of scaffolding. And then this is how that diagram works out. Then the view from Mercer, taken with the mock-up. I mean, nothing is visible because, well, anyway, nothing is visible from Mercer Street in any case. And then this is just materials. The window frames are proposed to be, you know, varnished wood, and the cladding is proposed to be lead-coated copper, and also gray stucco to match the existing gray stucco. Again, it'd be acrylic stucco. And so then just the details of this. This, you know, once again, the exhaust units enclosure, the shading device. This sort of white triangle represents that the apex of the existing roof slope on top of the penthouse.
Do you have more than enlightened the visibility, which is really what I think we understand what's being done?
Okay, so I just wanted to say that the top of this shading device is level with the apex of the roof on top of the existing apex, and so we're not increasing the height of, you know, the roof at all, but it is more visible around the three sides. So yeah, I mean, can I answer any questions for you?
Okay, I just want to ask one thing about it, then we'll have the question of the committee. Is the shading device, is it fair to say it's the most visible of the overall? Or is it the fact that it sticks out from visible things?
No, I think it's fair to say that it's the most visible because it's the most consistently visible, and it extends longer. The exhaust enclosure does stick up a little bit higher because they're trying to get those gases up above that level, which is about the bottom of the shading device is about 8 feet, 8.5 feet off of the finished floor. Inside
and the finish of what we're seeing in general is what?
Lead coated copper and glass.
Oh, okay, Eugene, if you'll go through the committee, please.
Sure. I think Brian, you're first, and then Susan, you're next.
Thank you. So I want to just express my appreciation for the difficult situation of having to put the mock-ups up there and carry it up and down and so forth. And I'm convinced of the fact that this is a very modest modification and that it's minimally visible. And the lead-coated copper is a gray color. Is that correct?
Yes.
Right.
And not shiny, it's dull.
Yeah. So it seems to me that you've done an excellent job of keeping it to a minimum. I would have to call it minimally visible from the public right of way. So I'm fine with what you presented. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Okay, Susan.
Committee.
Yeah, I have a question, just a simple question. What is a shading device?
Mm.
Sounds very mysterious.
It's we could call it a roof overhang. So it's projected
Oh.
about 29 inches from the face of the wall, and it's psychologically protects the occupants, but really it prevents the some of the noonday sun and the weather to directly impinge on the windows.
Sure, no, of course, I understand that, but I just didn't know if there was some extra special something because of the device factor. All right, thank you very much.
Great. Brendan.
Thanks. Yeah, great job in presenting this very thoroughly. I just have one comment, which is nitpicky, which is the exhaust fan enclosure. Was there any consideration to continue the bulkhead stucco? I think that might make it as minimal as it is. That would be even more minimal.
Yes, I think actually this is a good the one consideration is that, so what's weird about this is that it's actually like a dress around the actual structure that the fans are attached to. So basically the structure that the fans are attached to, is keeping out the water. That would be the stucco, but we need essentially, it would be good to have a lighter material wrap around that, because the water, rain will just go down to the layer of the pink and then spill out the bottom.
Got it.
So the actual waterproofing is sort of lower down, and the skirt is really hiding the fans and trying not to be too big, but it's not impossible.
Yeah, it's fine. It's a good job.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Other committee members, Eugene?
Chenault, I do not see any other committee members with their hand raised.
Okay. Any public?
I don't see any public members with their hands raised either.
Thank you very much. We'll keep shading devices in mind if we do Palm Beach houses now.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
The
Thank you,
last
Mr. Painton.
information, 188 Spring Street, if you can get that up, please.
Yes, so I am promoting Matthew Luciola and Peter Radocha.
188 Spring Street, the application is to alter the front facade and to construct a rear extension.
Okay.
Good evening, everyone.
Hi. May I ask one thing about the, did you hear the description I read?
Yes.
Is there involved in looking, there is excavation, we know, and is there demolition of the back wall at all?
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to add that. I won't reread, but I'll add that because those are significant things.
Understood.
Thank you.
Hold on 1 second.
Sorry, is the entire rear wall demolished?
Not the entire.
Okay. Okay.
and we'll
so-
go through that in detail. So my name's Matthew Luciola, and I
I'm
have
Peter Radoka.
we are from Crown Architecture and Consulting. We will be presenting together the street level facade alteration and rear non-visible horizontal enlargement of 188 Spring. As a general introduction to the building, it is a 3.5-story altered federal style brick building on the south side of Spring Street between Sullivan and Thompson Street. Here are some existing conditions from the rear, which will be fully non-visible once the 182 Spring Street development is completed next door.
We'll kind of start off by giving some brief historical and contextual information just to kind of give a better understanding of what's informing our proposed design, which we'll be showing shortly. But the designation report for this building estimates it was built in 1824. It's had a large number of alterations since then. A few major alterations were noted throughout this report, but there are some additional alterations not listed that we found through our own research within the other city records. One of them in the Sanborn map, which is in the northern part of the block, it no longer keeps the internal donut intact. You can kind of see on the right there. But some of these alterations can easily be found throughout the historical photos, including the molded lintels that were believed to be present initially, then replaced with flat masonry lintels. Then again in the 1960s, those masonry lintels were replaced back to molded lintels. The horse path on the left was altered to lead into the interior as a secondary entry. The wood paneling and stained glass window at the ground level was installed. An attic dormer on the front and rear pitched roof is also installed during that same period. And then finally, the first floor, initially residential, was converted to a commercial laundry and then back to residential. So you can see 188 Spring has seen some major alterations throughout the years, as well as many other minor alterations not mentioned. And the building itself is within the Sullivan-Thompson Historic District. Throughout this district, there's a wide variety of scales and styles, but as noted within the report and also through just general observation, it is mainly a commercial district, with the first floor often holding commercial storefronts. And this presence is even more common on Spring Street itself, which is where we sit, obviously. And this is kind of a trait we'd like to emphasize throughout our proposal, as it was kind of a major steering point with our design.
The streetscape is a good example of the commercial influence within the block, and an initial look at the 7-story building being constructed to the east of us at 182 Spring Street. As you can see, most buildings within our block on Spring are all of larger scale with commercial storefronts at the ground floor. Here are some photos of the deteriorated ground floor wood paneling, stained glass window, and entry doors. We have provided some photos showing the cement parging underneath the lath, which is approximately 1 inch to 1.5 inches thick in some parts, and side view of the brick confirming that the historic brick facade no longer remains. The infill under the center window is CMU behind the parging as well.
So starting with the redesign of the first floor facade, we propose the removal of the unoriginal wood cladding and replacing it with brick to match the above facade. And then in lieu of creating a false history with the common federal style building design, we kind of focused on taking as much guidance from the past as possible. You can see the text photo on the left there in comparison. So the left side historic horse path becomes obsolete as a secondary entry door for a single family home. And we propose its replacement with a casement window within the original opening, kind of paying a homage to its historic significance, which we do realize is significant for this style home. And then moving to the right of that, we propose a large picture window, which you find kind of speaks to the commercial presence discussed before within the block and district. And this also directly ties to the historic window opening of the past commercial use for the first floor. And then you can see the correlation between the 1940s condition to the current and then to the proposed with the dashed red and blue lines there. Kind of utilizing that same rhythm from the past. And then additionally, including the addition of a cast stone water table, which is commonly found within many residential federal homes. We believe this kind of draws more attention to the separation of the private first floor to the public thoroughfare. And then here, you can see the full elevation of the front facade, including our proposed first floor design, as well as the entire above facade and roof, which we leave to remain. And we use these materials from the remaining above within our proposed design. This overall elevation also provides a better picture of our design relation to a traditional commercial storefront found throughout the district, where the upper level's rhythm is separated from the first floor's rhythm, almost appearing as separate elements. And then moving along to the rear, existing conditions, you can see it's left in a poor condition. Most openings have been altered or added and removed over time, as well as an unoriginal dormer on the pitched roof there.
Within the rear, we propose a contemporary style to blend with 182 Spring, the new 7-story contemporary building. Although we use a high amount of glazing with 2 feet of brick piers on each side and an ample amount of robust mullions and panels to break up the glazing. We propose to raise the rear unoriginal dormer while leaving the original pitch roof to remain on each side. We are using elements taken from 182 Spring also to blend the contemporary style with ours. We are using the same terracotta from their projecting bay windows adjacent to our building and black finishes from our trim, mullions, and frames. The brick will match the color of the American bond of the front of the building. Looking at the existing and proposed plans gives a better idea of the increased floor area mostly being added at the cellar and first floor. The first floor is enlarged approximately 24 feet 7 inches, which is relatively the same length as the existing deck. Second and third floor are only being enlarged 8 foot 4 inches. And then the 4th story and roof footprints are to remain the same depth. This section gives a better understanding of how the rear enlargement works as well. Again, proposing an additional 24 feet off the first floor, an additional 8 feet off the second and third, and we're proposing to raise the 4th floor attic ceiling to a standard height from the existing 7 foot and widen the dormer. You can see within the sight line section, the rear enlargement and raising of the rear dormer still remains non-visible. The site plan gives a better perspective of the typical scale of the surrounding buildings on the block compared to ours along Spring Street.
And some of the precedents we used were 23 Downing Street for the front facade. Even though it's a different style, we believe it successfully utilizes this higher amount of first floor glazing within a residential building, as well as a similar concept of the separated rhythm and design of the first floor when compared to the floors above. And then for Bedford, for the rear facade precedent, which we have actually worked on in the past, or we actually did in the past, which utilizes a more contemporary feel and a higher amount of glazing similar to our proposal here.
I want to ask a question, please, about this slide. The front facade, Downing Street. Is this something that took place before or after designation? Do you know?
I'm not quite sure. I would have to check. I can't remember off the top of my head.
That's important with precedents that we know. Bedford Street's very recent, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm sure I remember that one. But this kind of precedent, it's important to know whether it is something that happened between the original configuration and designation or something that's been approved. Okay, thank you, and continue.
So this rendering of the front facade gives a better idea of how it may look with the proposed material and how it's kind of evolved, or how it would be evolving throughout its lifetime, with the 1940s tax photo on the left, and then the existing conditions, and then what we are proposing. And in the rear as well, you can see the larger glazing, and then just in general, the better rhythm of it. You can also see in the elevation that the rear of 190 Spring uses altered arch windows, which is a strange element when compared to traditional federal style glazing.
Lastly, we have shown this massing looking at the rear of our building and how it's compared to the neighboring buildings. We feel the massing explains our intent for our property to help bridge the gap between the sister building of 190 Spring to the new development at 182 Spring, taking elements both from both properties as well as from our own. As a volume precedent, we looked at the approved 9 Van Dam Street project, which is also an altered federal style building approved for a rear addition and considerable amount of excavation within the site. Again, thank you for taking the time to listen to our presentation.
Thank you, guys.
I have a couple things I need to get the notes correct. Could you go back to the just a few slides earlier that showed the rear facade rendering? Is there one that shows the full building
Of the
new rear facade?
So this is
shows the full height.
Yeah, this is the full height.
So
so this is, you can see my
the
mouse, right?
English basement are doors that open to grade, is that correct?
So the basement will not open to grade. The cellar will not open to grade.
No, the floor, the bottom floor of the picture.
Yes, this is the first floor. This is at grade, correct?
Okay, and could you then go back to the probably the best is the section
This.
before and after. Yeah.
Yeah, this really helps show the mass of the addition, which the largest part obviously being in the cellar, which will be completely non-visible, and then the first floor, which is the 24'7".
Right.
And then the upper 2 levels, the second and third floor being 8 foot.
That's all clear. Looking at on the left, which is your build, just show your building. I think it's clear. But...
So right here.
Okay, and this is the new building that extends the full depth of your garden beside it. Okay.
Correct. This new building's here.
That's what I was seeing. There were others. The volume studies sort of distorted the shape. fine. Okay, questions, please, from the committee.
I think Albert, you may have been first and then Brendan.
Okay, the excavation, that is part of this application, right? The excavation of the basement?
Correct.
And how deep is that?
So we are actually looking to do a bulkhead along the adjacent 190 spring. So it will not be affecting the footing at that point. And then we are going down deeper as we get further away. If you look in the floor plan, I can pull that up quickly. You can see that we are actually creating this here where we're holding a bulkhead up against it and we're stepping down from the upper or from the existing cellar. We have this bulkhead here, and then we're stepping down as we get further away from
Where ours not moving.
The excavation extends under the entire extension, correct?
It's yes, this is the area of new excavation. And then here will be excavated
We're
slightly.
not seeing what if you're
Oh,
trying
I'm
to
sorry.
look-
Here.
No, there's no arrow.
I'm sorry. So here, maybe this. Can you see my arrow now?
Oh, we see the crosshatch.
Yep.
Okay.
So this is the area of new excavation. This is where the existing cellar ends. And this is this bulkhead that's being created. So that way we don't have to underpin the 190 spring foundation. And all along this other side, the plan south, is the new 182 spring building.
So there's no underpinning at all.
No.
Okay, another question. There seems to be very, very little of the rear yard remaining. Is that correct?
So we have a
30
30-foot rear yard, still from the
It is still 30, there's still 30 feet there.
correct, yes.
It doesn't look like that. Okay. I gather that's not much of a donut anyway.
No, not after you add
We
that
did a
new
site
182 building as well.
Right. Thank you.
Okay, Brendan.
So here's a good, you can see here that we're actually from the first floor, we're 40 feet from the rear.
So am I correct that the entire rear facade is going to be removed?
So the yes, we are not extending the bulkhead or the dormer any further forward, but we want to raise it, so the wall would have to be rebuilt at that floor.
So the entire first and second floor, or that material will be removed?
Yes.
Okay, and how about those casement windows? Those are very unusual. Are those original?
For the front?
No, in the back, the rear.
No, I don't think any of it's original, especially based off of the brick style from the 1940s tax map photos. It looks like both buildings had been completely the facades rebuilt. So
I see some weird stuff. there.
Presumably, the existing facade is a rebuilding in the same position with the same window configuration or whatnot as the original.
yeah, so if you look here, you can really tell that this brick was completely different than
Right.
what
I was
is
asking
currently.
about the rear, but
Yeah, but yeah, right. It would probably be the same for the front and the rear.
The rear looks pretty, at least the brickwork.
I mean, but if you look at the brick here, it's the same as the rear.
Okay, let me take a look. There's a lot of patches in it. Okay, yeah, that was so unusual. If they were original, that would be very interesting. I just hate to see these early timber frame structures be altered because, okay, so we're, 200 years from it, and 100 years from now, it's like, how many are going to be left in New York? So that's my comment. Thank you.
Susan?
Oh, yeah, thanks. I think you already answered this question for Brendan, but I just want to make sure I understand correctly. The situation regarding the historic fabric of the rear facade, will any of it remain? Will any of the masonry remain?
No, but it's believed based off of our conversations with LPC that this is not the historic fabric.
Can you expound on that a bit?
Because of the brickwork that is shown from the 1940s photos, it looks that the brick has been replaced for 188 and 190 spring, both in the rear and the front facades.
And when do you think that may have happened?
It's 1960s.
Okay, thank you.
Ryan?
Yeah, I think you've confirmed most of my questions. Certainly that there's no original brick facade historic fabric left. That the horse passage door and the horse passageway all have been removed, eliminated, destroyed many, many years ago. Is that correct?
Correct.
And so really you have virtually no historic fabric left on this building. Is that correct?
Correct. Including the dormers.
And all of the back is no longer going to be visible from any public right of way.
Correct.
Okay. I think that answers my questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm up next. A difficult design problem on the what is it, Spring Street?
Yes.
Lower level. So I do appreciate that. I don't think it's there from my point of view. I think I know you've retained this fixed odd shaped window from the Chinese laundromat. And then the door to the back is now a very odd casement window, which I think would be a big, big mistake. The thing with windows is it's not just what they look like from the outside all closed up. It's when you open them that they really pop out as something, as an intervention that I don't think would be in your best interest.
Can you, excuse me, Nita, can you zoom to the proposed, as she's speaking?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, it seems very flimsy, this odd window, when, the bottom of it has been filled in. There was some kind of stair going down. There was a lot else going on at the time that those openings were created. So I find it very unfortunate, and it doesn't look very happy to me. I think also you should replace the brick steps with brownstone. Brick is a very is not usually used for landings and steps like that. And I guess the other note would be, did the first floor drop down in your design? How, or is it
Yes,
the same? It
correct.
did drop down.
Yes,
And you are moving further out into the sidewalk. 1'6".
yes.
Yeah, so just be aware that, you know, there's the DOT and all that.
Yep.
The other thing is, and this is just again an idea because I'm trying to think what would work better, is that the lintels above the double hung windows with the muttons they added that decorative, I don't know what inspired them to do that, but they did do that.
Mhm.
And I think what's odd is that the door to the house, to the building, is completely plain, which maybe there's an opportunity there to do something. I mean, it really, I know the original is gone and all of that, but it looks very odd, very random, and not as beautiful as I think you could make it. The back facade, just want to jump over to that, is so in summary, I definitely object to the casement window for sure. And I actually sort of object to that the whole 2 window, odd shapes, everything its own. And the rear facade, I feel that got a little bit overdone with these sliver windows. I mean, it's just so busy. And if you look at the adjacent property, the one that you're sort of getting inspiration from, you know, it's like a regular sized window, and these are just like accordion madness. So I would try to do different proportions, different sizes, fewer of them. I don't know. I just like, this is kind of appealing, the one on the right, that your adjacent neighbor. Maybe I know people like these California style, open everything up, you know, really wide, people live here. We don't need wide doors like that. I think you could just have a couple of double doors and make it look a little less busy. So, and I also I think as a counterpoint to the front facade, I really like that photograph you showed of, what is it, Downing Street?
Yes.
With that little, what page is that?
Peter, what page is that? Do you know?
Towards the end. 19.
Thank you.
That's it.
Yeah, you know, that, yes, it's making more windows and more glass, but that at least looks sort of normal. And I don't know if Landmarks told you, keep that fixed glass, but you got rid of the stained glass. So I don't know what's precious about it.
So,
And go ahead.
oh no, I was just going to say, so, you know, that's been the kind of the hardship with this, is how to make this. Do we create something that, even if we do something like this with this band of windows, I mean, that doesn't speak to any of the history of the facade at that level. So again, that just goes back to the commission, you know, saying that we should, you know, use something from what was there.
I know, but it's so flimsy. I mean, if you kept the stained glass and
I mean,
Chinese laundry sign,
we
I would go, wow, that's cool.
Excuse
This
me.
to me just looks like somebody's pencil, you
Excuse
know,
me, we
moved
don't
by
need to have a big
accident.
discussion of this. the point's been made and the reply's been made, so could we move along? Okay, are there other people who wish to speak? Or Nita, do you have other questions?
Hold on one second. No, I will point out that it's extraordinary that these 1820s, these are very old buildings and clearly in need of a lot of love. So I'm glad they're getting that. And I just think that it's remarkable that they've survived, and I'm glad we're preserving them.
Okay, are there other committee questions?
Brian, did you put your hand back up? No?
Sorry, no.
Okay.
I wanted to say one thing about the front is that my view is that when the door was replaced, that negated so much any commercial reference that we've ended up that the rationale is not there for not having two windows that are properly aligned with the ones above and are the same kind of windows. Had we kept that, we might have had that. It's not uncommon to see, and I think of another one on Spring Street, I can't remember the address, that's clearly, and there's several in the village, just adapting the commercial space to residential, but this doesn't do it. Okay, sorry, that's all. Are there other comments from?
We have Albert.
From the board or?
Just a comment, since this discussion is going on. I appreciate that the windows are different sizes because it indicates where there was a horse walk.
Okay.
That's it.
Right. Eugene, have you other?
I don't see any other questions from the committee members. Going to the public, and I just want to remind everyone the Q&A is simply for technical questions. So I do see some comments in the Q&A. If the public would like to ask these of the application, please raise your hand. Okay. I don't see any other questions from the public.
Okay, thank you very much. So maybe we go to the business session.
Thank you, guys.
May I suggest we start with Spring Street because it's so complicated while our memories are fresh. To wit, the only question there seems to be the lower floor and what we say about it.
Okay.
Comments on the windows of various ones.
Thank you. I don't like those single pane or single glazed openings on the lower level. I think that could be improved, even if the opening size remains.
Is there any agreement on my point that there has been so much erased in what's been done already from the commercial recent history that there's just no justification for keeping anything commercial?
Well,
Walt, I see your point on that. I think part of the issue is that in this proposal, which, you know, ostensibly relates to a commercial past, let's call it, you know, the Chinese laundry past, that reference is obscure to anybody who would walk by or see it. There's nothing really in the present that tells that story. Just having these large single pane windows doesn't really make that reference. And I think that's really essentially the problem.
And having them in different sizes, because that central window makes sense only if there's a door on each side, because that becomes a central window agreeable to that amount of space.
That's interesting. So let's say they were try to continue to have that conversation with the storefront. I would say you would push those windows back and, you know, reference the brick as columns like they originally were. Aesthetics aside, I kind of feel like they could do whatever they want here. But part of the designation is all about the transformation and the immigration and the fact that they were turned into storefronts from the Italian immigrants, mostly, you know, in the late 19th century. So it's a
Well, the general guidelines are one can go back to a historical renovation. Arguably, the storefront is then, or they can go back to the original.
I see.
If they're doing, but all of which is nice, but this just seems such an unhappy amalgamation of trying to get this more light in or whatever through plain glass windows.
I appreciate Albert's comment. I'm trying to think that through, but apropos what Susan said, I mean, it's gone. It is gone. I mean, unless you put a door in there with a window, a fake door with a glass, you know, then, but
Right.
other than that, it looks really unappealing. And it should have the operation of the upper windows, or it should have some relationship to something. It just is not beautiful. I mean, let's be honest.
Come up with something concrete to say. We clearly stated the position.
Could I please?
Deny that. That's what I
Nice.
say.
A chuckle won't
Nice.
do, Brian. We need to be more concrete.
Could I support Anita on the door? That big slab of wood does certainly not look like 1824.
Oh, got it, with the panels that are regular, the 3 panels.
What we're saying is to preserve the front facade as it is at the ground floor,
Yeah.
which would give reference to both the laundry and the horse walk if that's not totally lost.
Could I jump in here? But the one thing that's different is that the Chinese laundry, the reason that window is at that height is because there was an opening below it that took you into the cellar.
You're right. Huh.
So there's
Yeah.
a lot going on
Wow.
in the olden days, in the 30s. And that's all been erased. I say back to the drawing board.
Could we, rather than being so specific, say historically correct original front facade throughout? Clearly up above is the original design.
Say that again? I
That
didn't understand.
that it be original.
Original meaning with
French windows
2
and
double
doors.
hung windows.
Yeah.
I mean, I probably would sign on for that even, yeah,
That's sort of what I was saying.
yeah, I know. I like that. At least it reflects what
Does
the
anybody
building
object
was.
Does anyone object to then?
I like the 1824. I wouldn't use, I wouldn't mind a single pane to set it off. But I
That's
do
very
like-
old.
Oh, I thought you said original.
Yeah, I did.
Okay.
Not existing.
Yeah. Anyways,
Double
I would,
hung.
I would support what you just suggested, Chenault, for sure.
Yeah, I wouldn't object.
that sounds good.
Okay, with no objections, just a moment, I've got to turn on my tracking or I'll have a mess here. Otherwise, the front's okay.
Can
Well,
we
I
talk
think
a minute about Anita's point on the brick steps?
Yeah,
Oh.
I tried to match the
it
brownstone.
should be brownstone
Yeah, which was what was there.
with proper detailing, nosing and all that. But I think that's more, I don't know, less suburban. I mean, we don't usually use bricks in stairs like that.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's not really brownstone, is it? You step on brownstone and.
Well, it's now they make it with a composite, which
It would
is
have been-
brownstone material mixed in with an epoxy.
Yeah.
Okay, that seems to dispose of the front. Going to the back. Let's start from the bottom up. I talked at considerable, and I wanted to do this, and we never seem to have enough time, about how we treat excavations. If we don't have to defer as much to what has happened or what even has been approved as what we think, as we do with things other than excavations. So if we want to say excavations are bad, we should be able to say it. And if we think they're not bad in a particular case, we can say so. What certainly should be appreciated here is that they have managed to do it without any underpinning. They looked out that there's a new building beside them.
Yeah.
So that's usually our biggest objection to excavations. Our other objection is when they take the whole of the yard and go completely to the back property line or close to it. And that's not the case here. So I would suggest that we don't have to approve, but that's reason that this is an acceptable excavation where others we don't like, and have all that to do about not doing harm to neighboring buildings and underpinning and so on.
Can I ask a question about that? That sounds fine, Chenault. My question is, what about the adjacent building to the west? Are we disturbed, because that's a real, 1820, whatever.
They put the curbing there, did they not? Or the
Let me see here, hold
sort of a
on.
repose wall.
You're right, they did
Wanted
pull
that up.
away.
Yeah. And presumably the new building is just a solid wall there and they go up to, but not under anything.
Yeah, well, the new building is going way down deep, I'm sure. They always do. So they will already have a foundation wall there by the time whoever builds it first, I guess.
So then, does anyone object then to the excavation?
No.
No.
They're fortunate to have so much depth in this property there. The rear facade. Do we feel that the destroying what's there, demolition of what's there, shouldn't be pejorative, is justified in view of the fact it seems not to be original? and indeed is somewhat recent. And if that's okay, does the increase in depth meet muster? It's not out of line with other things we've seen and not objected to.
No, I don't know if I'm trying to look for that section. But you know, this building is in poor condition. So
Right, I think that that replacing rather than restoring is not in question.
Mhm.
But
Right,
when it comes to
fine.
the window question, but the depth is the question now.
Yeah, I don't have any objection to that. My only objection is the configuration of the windows, as you just mentioned, or doors, terrace doors and that sort of thing. It's pretty busy. It's not very appealing, but it's not going to be visible either. And so without any historic fabric back there, it feels like it's it'd be pretty hard to impose restoring three-part windows like we have done in some cases.
And it's obviously one of those that the LPC will approve.
What we've generally done is approve this sort of thing. These are particularly unattractive on the basement level and the parlor level, and ask for some reference at least above. What's really so troubling to me is that it just goes up and up and up.
What does the
The
enlargement?
that they go beyond the parlor floor without any relief.
I don't know. Everybody's gone accordion crazy. It's not very, whatever. I said my part.
Does anybody else want anything modified above the parlor level?
I have a general comment to make about the rear facade. I mean, I understand it's not visible from the street. I understand that, you know, the historic fabric has already been bowdlerized. But I do find it troublesome that the aesthetic rationale for this particular design was that it was blending with the new construction next door. And I really question the basis of that aesthetically, to have a 19th century home, change the rear facade profoundly into one of these situations where you've got like one house on the front facade and a completely different house on the rear facade, and that the rear facade's point of reference is the modern construction next door to it. It doesn't seem sensible to me aesthetically.
It wasn't done by presenting this and this have been approved. Well, it was to the extent of that skinny building on Bedford Street, but
Eugene, can you,
Bedford Street building, but I think that, you know, to see a 19th century, the aesthetic of a 19th century home kind of, you know, affected, and one could say infected, by the contemporary architecture of the building next door, just without regard to its own inherent history, feels very wrong-headed to me.
so do you want to suggest what we should say?
can I ask Eugene a question about his comment? You posted something about what Ken did to the building. Is that you?
That wasn't from me. That was from a member of the public. I was just putting it into the chat.
Okay. There. I have nothing to say then.
Okay.
Well, I just want to know how others feel about
Hey,
that.
what are we going to do then about the windows on the rear?
Well, I mean, I don't know, it's pressed, it is a reasonable context. Because you've got a corner situation, and so you're unifying this sort of courtyardy thing. I don't think it's done successfully, but I understand because it's an infill. It is no longer historic. There's nothing historic about it. It's basically a steel frame with some bricks on the side, and then you know, a glass curtain wall. There's nothing historic about it. So it doesn't bother me so much, the vocabulary.
What about a precedent we're saying? We've been so strict about upper floors in other situations. If we have some rationale for this one, it's fine. But if we don't, we're treading on.
I mean,
Upper floors meaning above the third.
We've been very strict about the bottom opened up, the parlor floor opened up, though I've always tried to get it in 3 pieces opened up. And then above that, we've always asked for some reference to windows.
Well, I like that idea. That would look better.
We could say with some historic reference to the way it was, without saying.
I would be in favor of that. Also, I mean, there are some comments from a member of the public that I think, you know, do raise some reasonable doubt over whether there is or is not historic fabric back there, because, you know, I mean, we don't know, we can't research it, you know, in this moment, but a next door neighbor is suggesting that
Hear that.
there may be some misunderstanding here.
Yeah. What can we do? Can we ask Jeff?
For that reason, also, I think that your suggestion, Chenault, is a good one.
Well, if I can, the section, the comparing the existing to the proposed section, there's definitely there's a historic wall there. I mean, it got interrupted on the bottom 2 floors, but it's definitely there.
You mean the historic position of a wall with new material?
Yeah. Well, and also, I mean, I know those French windows are clearly not original. Those were really tall, skinny, double hung windows for the parlor kind of thing. So
I would like to suggest this from all that's been said, and one modification of it. Less industrial glass wall treatment on the basement and parlor floors, and a greater historic reference on the upper floors.
I like that.
Then we
That's
haven't
good.
been guilty of redesigning, but we've stated our point. Then I think that keeps us in the context of what our precedent, very strict precedent, has been.
I'd love to see those tall casement windows retained and used in that scheme.
I'm in favor of what Chenault said in terms of suggesting more historical context, because I don't think we want to be in the business of designing rear facades.
We could do it a lot better, but we don't. It's not our business.
It's good to remind us of that, Zachary.
Yeah, I agree with your suggestion, Chenault, and yours also, Zachary.
And we've finally gotten to the top. I heard no objection about raising the dormer, which
No,
puts
that's
it into
fine.
code.
No.
I don't mind raising the dormer, but I don't like those doors or windows. I don't think they are any kind of historic reference.
No, they make it look very ordinary too, really. There's something, before we leave this project, I just want to say something on the front, so just let me
So we
know.
should say that with the dormer windows are the same historic reference.
Yes. By the way, it's also a difficulty that the twin, this is a pair of historic houses. From all indication that I've seen, the back of the next door neighbor is equally bastardized or changed from anything historic. I don't see any historic references on it, which is unfortunate. But then again, maybe somebody will come along and upgrade it.
We don't want to perpetuate bad things that have been done.
No.
Is it appropriate to bring
More comment.
Jeffrey Rowland, who claims to live next door? Is it appropriate to bring him in, or should he?
No, it is
Let's
not.
get public
We
comment.
had, we
That would
had
be
a public
something-
session,
Oh,
and
The landmarks, he can talk to the landmarks committee about his concerns. Okay,
the time to speak is at a public session and not.
understood. Thank you.
Have we finished this?
Yes.
I would like to add one comment. I'm sorry, bear with me. On the front facade, under there's now indicated like a brownstone watermark, I guess they call it, like at the floor line. And below that is brick again, and that is not historic, and that's not a normal detail. I would suggest that from the line of the brownstone watermark, that it be brownstone below. And that'll look a lot better. So the brownstone.
The water table sits on top of the window, which is its purpose.
No, below. I'm talking about the one at the, like 2 feet off the sidewalk.
I'm sorry, say it again, because I was writing about the other one.
Okay, there's a brownstone, I call it a water table, but it's down low, like at a bulkhead height. It's right off the sidewalk. And there's brick above, and then there's brick below.
To the floor, to the ground.
To the sidewalk, it's
Yep.
brick between, and it should not be brick. And if they make the brownstone steps and then that brownstone base, it'll look much better. At least from that point of view, that detail.
I agree.
Okay, done.
Just one very quick comment. This is to be heard on February 28th at the LPC, and I hope that Jeffrey Rowland will be able to speak there.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, Bleecker Street laid over, Broadway. The ATM, he seemed to be agreeable. The only thing that was said about it that I got was what I said about the aggressive red. That it might have some relief to it.
I like your comment. I
Yes,
think it's
agree.
like so intense. These banks are not subtle. Holy moly. Red, green, what's the other one we had recently? So anything that we could do to make it less red.
Yeah, I totally agree. Also, particularly in view of the fact that there's this odd corner masonry situation that is not organic to the building. So when you combine the existing corner masonry situation that the building owner may or may not be dealing with at some point, but we can only deal with what exists now. And when you combine that situation with all that red, you've got a whole corner of this fabulous building that becomes even worse. So I think that's a great idea to ask them to minimize the red quantity of red.
They could just copy the gray next door to the north too.
Yeah, anybody looking, they'll find it, you know, they'll find that banking,
Canopy
Gene.
identifies pretty much the bank. Grand Street,
Grand awnings over new residential lobby and elevator.
that's at the elevators first.
You know, we used to object to those, but we don't anymore because
And it's in
they're
so,
located where they are. You can't push
Yeah.
them back. They're there. C'est
and
la
that
vie.
just emphasizes the historic placement of the freight elevator.
Well, except they didn't go up, you know, again, I'm remembering in the past, I tried to get one approved and it was, they denied it. But now, because we didn't have to ride up to the roof. I mean, if he didn't go up to the roof, it wouldn't be so high, but you know, times change. So I don't have an objection.
I don't have an objection either.
I've been
And,
very
you know,
careful.
let's remember that in the resolution to note that Eugene has recused himself.
Yep.
Okay.
And everybody
Let's
else.
remember, Eugene, don't say a word. Actually, I think you can speak, you just can't vote. But I'm
No,
not,
actually, I think I need to recuse myself from the discussion
really?
as well.
And it
Yes.
was not up to the presenter to say that. It's up to a person to recuse.
I know, he outed you.
Look to the Supreme Court news today if you want to know how to recuse.
What about the canopy,
Okay, the
awning, as they refer to it? It seems
the
very modern,
over
very
the
contemporary.
entrance.
Well, I'd like to eliminate these awnings completely from a historical point of view.
Yes.
You know, okay, so we've got precedent, right? It's
And
bad precedent, but like, has it ever been rejected? Because rejecting is another precedent. So
They
let's
have
have it
also-
see court.
they've also made neighborhood reference with it.
They are
That's
approved. I
inaccurate.
mean, they're popping up left and right in Soho. I will say though, if looking at it right now, the doors are recessed. So already we have like a foot or two recess. And so it's only sticking out a couple of feet. And this is a humongous building. I
Yeah,
think
I
this
think the-
little,
Oh, yeah.
I think it's one of the better designs that I've seen for these. I mean, it's extremely minimal.
it's minimal, but
say
you know,
it
it's
is
almost
minimal?
too flimsy in a way, but I'm critical. So don't
If
pay
we want to
attention to me.
oppose them, that's a separate matter. If it's oppose them categorically.
I don't want to oppose it. I mean, it's true,
Okay.
you know.
I'm just telling you, it's going to be very minimal in reality because it's
Yeah.
set in.
Exactly.
And that helps our approval process, I guess.
So can we say that because it, you know, isn't ahistorical as far as we can tell from evidence? But this is minimal, so we can approve it? Is that, at
Yeah.
least it gets it in there?
That'd be fun where I wrote about it.
And they're popping up specifically on Crosby Street. I've seen quite a few there. And, you know, we understand why people want them. It's just, they're not, I guess these were earlier and they only popped up later up in Gansford.
We'll work that into the whereas about the canopy that.
Well, there is the one that was there before 73, which is next to the Aldo Rossi building. So I guess they can make that point. So that's,
That's on Mercer, yeah.
yeah, so.
In the Gansford district, they were useful. It was
Exactly.
part of the meat business.
They were moving all the time, in and out.
Well, they were trucking, they were unloading trucks here too.
Okay.
I mean,
Well, they
This
were
is the back-
pretty trucks. They were
back of
carrying
house
silk.
stuff.
60 Greene Street.
Oh, let's see. This bothered me because we had a separate submittal, and then we got the kind of a bait and switch. And I want to kind of
It
read.
may be different today. Often we get new ones. I'm not sure what got posted.
Yeah, well, today,
I mean, is it substantially different? I mean, it's common that we have applications that their presentations are slightly updated by the time that they come before us.
And we
think
also,
it
there
was-
was no opportunity presumably, or would have been done, and we are eager to have the closest to what they're going to present, so.
I really think that we should have the final and that's it. Because if I'm gonna go and take a look at buildings and, you know, take pictures, et cetera, and all of a sudden it's changed and all of a sudden now all the windows are being done.
Well, we're here to evaluate what's presented today.
Okay,
I mean, that's
But-
what they're getting approval for, and that's what they're gonna build.
sure, but shouldn't we have a chance to look at it first? Like, and that's the whole reason of public posting. You know, otherwise it's not a
You
public.
haven't always even had them, so this is,
Sorry.
So
it's
so we're
just not
taking it
something we can.
item by item. Chenault, are we gonna approach the facade item by item?
The first thing is the windows. Changing the windows.
No,
The whole infill's being replaced, but the design wise, what's being replaced is the divided windows with
Right.
plate glass windows.
no, absolutely not.
Does anyone object to a denial of changing the configuration of the windows?
It's a tough one.
Hmm.
I mean, you have to go here with the mission because otherwise you'd never go over to those windows.
The idea that if they were showing cars, it might be, but a watch is not that big.
It's seeing the beautiful people
And he said it was
inside.
impossible to show the wares or something, which is just not true.
Yeah, I mean, it's historical material. These are like 2.5 thick windows and doors. The door that they're proposing is not original. So,
Well, we understand all that was changed already, so there, I mean, the fact that it's unified now, with the door having been erased, and indeed their replacement with the cast iron.
It's a very beautiful, beautiful existing storefront from the design point of view. It really is lovely.
It truly is. I mean, I completely agree. And I would support a denial of these windows based on the fact that it is a beautiful storefront. And also based on the fact that changing these to these big single pane windows really does have an impact on the rhythm of the visual rhythm of the entire facade.
I couldn't agree more because this is a highly designed building. A very highly designed building and very
Yeah.
considered,
Yes.
and the elements change by floor. So it would be a real disaster to.
Well,
I think it would be
Worse than
regrettable.
The building is just when everything's changed on the ground floor.
Well, you
Mhm.
can't separate the ground floor from the entire design.
No, I mean, in a building where the entire ground floor is replaced.
Right, right.
I
Right.
think,
But let's
I think-
deny it.
yeah,
Somebody's got to stick up for this little storefront.
Rhythm is important.
Their other proposal was, let them make the door,
Yeah.
let them replace that door.
Yeah.
And I don't see why they were replacing the cast iron. That doesn't make any sense. I mean, it's wood now, it looks the same. I mean, usually I would say, yeah, hold on to the cast iron. I don't know.
Presumably that came from landmarks, which I thought strange, but
Because
at least we're not
so
trying
much
to
more
halfway
money.
pretend it was a door at one time and is now that it's a door which replaced my window.
And even that cast iron piece has a seam in it, so that's really confusing. But what's interesting about the building is that the historical louvered wrought iron gates go down to that point. So the channels go down to that piece of cast iron, and they're still there. the historical one. So it's pretty neat.
But sounds like we're good, deny the windows, okay to approve the door?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
I would like to note some restoration that needs to happen on Bay 3, the wood on Bay 3. And also that when they paint it,
No, it's
Bay, Bay 3, the existing historical material, has some rot. So I'd like them to address
they
that.
said they're replacing all of the wood with wood.
They were,
Yes.
but they want to replace everything.
So it'll be replaced.
That's crazy. It is in good shape. That's crazy. Let them have the door, but like all of that, no, it's in great shape. There is absolutely no reason why we should allow them to do that. That's crazy.
I'm confused. Are you,
I would say, so deny the windows, that what are now windows, just deny that they can do it. Is that the issue? Can we do that? Is that what, or we can say, oh, you can keep the design.
Well, it seems late to bring it up since we didn't question them about it, but what are you saying, that the wood is all in such good condition in your view?
Except for the one piece in Bay 3, which has some rot. The door is not original.
It really should have been brought up when they could speak about it.
They didn't say that they were going to do it until we found out today. But anyways,
but never that we have to deal with what they present. So
they are beautiful.
We can do it.
Soho doors.
Just a minute. We can do it by saying that, ensure that it's necessary because of degraded wood.
The wood is not degraded except for a small patch.
Okay, they said otherwise. And without a chance for
They are
them.
wrong. I mean, I have a.
We can't just decide that here without their having had an opportunity.
Well,
But
I can document it.
We can say that that it should be verified that the wood in fact needs to be replaced because of it's being degraded.
Well, I can send photos. I'll walk by tomorrow if we can hold off. And yeah, we say it like that, and I can send photos to everybody about the condition.
I think that's the best we can do to accommodate that, is to ensure that it needs to be replaced. Just a second, I'll make a note of that.
It's a nice presentation. It is very nice.
As was the one for the house at the end. That was all of this one, correct?
Yep.
473 Broadway.
Oh, excuse me.
For all the to do about that is
Oh, it's fine.
Yeah,
It's fine.
it's so much work.
It's the most complicated non-problem one we've ever had.
Yeah, but
Brian,
no stone unturned. It's a go.
Brian, it's the something coated copper, and I can never get the word.
Lead.
Lead.
Lead coated. copper.
Lead. Lead. Like
Really?
poison, lead.
Get the lead in.
Preservationists, we love lead. It's the best
Is it real lead?
preservative.
Yeah.
Pardon?
Heaven forbid if they have to enclose it. I just went through that with paint. So
No, but it's very good for flashing.
okay.
Lead coated.
Coated copper. I thought that's what he said. I was so unbelieving. I for sure I hadn't.
Well, it doesn't have the flashy nature of copper. Like it doesn't go green, it doesn't go orange, it just stays
no,
dull
patina.
gray.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay, we have come to the end from my point of view.
Oh, yeah.
We have a meeting on Monday night with 2 applications, and they're both relatively complicated. And the big news is that Florence is back
Yeah.
beginning after we get all this one through to the board and so forth, everything will go to and through her.
Okay.
So I'll
That's a very
document,
good study and did a splendid job.
I'll document 60 Greene and send photos tomorrow.
And I'll fix that up in the whereas part.
Mhm.
I just don't think we can outright deny it without having there had an opportunity, but recommend denial, excuse me. Okay, thank you all.
Okay.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Bye.
Good night, everyone.
Thank you.
Good night.
Abstain from
Good
going.
night, everyone. See you Monday.
Monday.